And welcome back to the bench, powered by Wowhead. I would like to extend a congratulations to Squishy, the famed slayer of Dimensius. Good work, buddy.
Thanks, man. It was a tough one. It was a tough one, but the boss in the end, it died. Shout out to Might for killing it. It was a really, really, really tough boss, but it felt good when we killed it. And I hope you guys get to experience that feeling soon.
I'm going to double down and say that this is one of my favorite bosses of all time. I know that we talked about it a little bit last week. We've gotten the boss to, I think, 15%. This is one of the best bosses. I know that I took a couple tiers off. This is one of my top 3 or 4 favorite bosses ever. This fight completely owns.
Yeah, I talked to people who are longtime WoW players who kind of not doom on the game, but talk about things that have been better or whatever. And a lot of times people talk about class, like the way your class plays, as being one of the most important things of the game. And I think maybe I'm sort of understanding that. I mean, maybe the last couple of bosses are really good, but I think it's just a matter of I'm just having a lot of fun not playing healer for one. And yeah, I'm actually really, really enjoying all these bosses too. Like, this is, I think, the most I've enjoyed the last 2 end bosses of a raid. And I mean, these are brutality for my guild. I mean, you guys remember what I went through in the last couple of raids. So to be I don't know, we're, to be 200 pulls plus into a boss and I'm still having fun and feeling like I'm improving is very, very cool.
I think Dimensius does a good job of making sure that you always maintain progression. Where, especially with really hard bosses, and I think that from the way that you guys described Ansarek, maybe Ansarek kind of fell into this category, where it felt like you could go multiple nights of having to reprog phase 2 or phase 1 over and over again. Where at least with Dimensius, while you can have some setbacks, it always feels like you are continuing to push towards kind of the last phase and towards that goal of killing the boss. And I think that that's something that the boss does really well, even though it launched with a little bit of criticisms of it being impossible.
Yeah. Nope, not our guild. We're in phase 1 still after 200 pulls.
Yeah.
I was about to ask, are you actually 200 pulls in phase 1?
Well, I mean, we've gotten to P3, I think, a single digit number of times, 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh, Tettles is pulling up the receipts. And we spent half of last night in P1. We were wiping in P1 a lot. To be fair, we've had some roster issues. That's part of the reason why we're spending a lot of time on the boss and extending and stuff, is because we have people either leaving or needing to leave very soon, and so we've had to make a couple swaps. And we had the guy who left on Nexus game. So
yeah. I mean, I think overall, the only criticism with the boss that I have right now is, and I'd like to pose this to you as well, is do you think there should be a boss that hard requires 4 specific classes?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think so. There's this whole DK is not a raid buff thing, right? And Blizzard kind of said, no, grip is a raid buff, and then they mandatory made it that you needed DKs, right? But one thing that feels really bad is okay, we have 1 DK player in our build or in our guild, or 2 actually. One of them, well, I'll just say his name because whatever, it's Tanner. He's very, very good player, very, very good at doing damage, topping meter all the time. Sometimes he plays a little bit greedy. And so it's kind of unfortunate that so much pressure is on that guy to do the mechanics when we have lots of other good players who would handle stuff like that, but it's okay, well, our DK needs to perfectly grip 2 things and be alive every single pull, or we just die in P2. It feels bad. So I understand what Blizzard is trying to do, but I just think that making one person in a guild, you have to have this guy, he has to show up, he has to be alive for P2. It's just a little bit too much. It's definitely been a little bit frustrating for us.
On one hand, yeah, I get what Growl is saying. At the same time, historically, I've not really minded the raid comp restrictions. Even with this one, the Warlocks and the DKs, there are ways around it, right? In theory, you can priest mind control, life grip a mob. You can high explosive trap to knock the mob. If we have a DK dead, we'll double ROP and try to get one of the nullbinders across. There are ways around it. And I think that as long as there are ways around it, effective secondary or tertiary solutions, I think it's okay. It's more if that's the only strategy that you can ever do, that's when it becomes a problem. With the Warlock Gate stuff, you don't really have to have 2 Warlocks. It makes the heal check whenever you're trying to heal the second Devourer a lot more reasonable, but I don't think it's required.
I mean, I would agree with you. It's not required, but it does make the fight infinitely harder. Have you seen anybody kill this boss with a double Warlock, double DK yet? And realistically, the answer is no, because it
No.
just shoots your consistency
No.
into the sun.
Now, I haven't seen anybody also kill it with one evoker total either, but my guild is progging it currently with one evoker, and it's more or less fine.
I don't think Evoker is hard required for Dimensius, though. Like,
Yeah, it used to be, definitely, with the spiral.
with wins.
With wins, yeah.
With wins, it was. But I don't think like Evoker's solidly in the camp of nice to have, not required. But I don't think you could say the same with Warlocks and DKs.
Yeah, they don't. I don't know. I think that arguing that they're not required is maybe just. It's probably wrong because those pretty much are required, huh? I don't know.
How many?
It should.
How many
be a little
hours
bit
is your
easier.
guild rating, Tettles?
12.
That's pretty good. Shout out to Tettles Guild. I was we were raiding last night for overtiming, and someone pointed out, "Oh, it's cool. You and Tettles are like neck and neck on the same boss." And I'm just saying, like, wait a second. I remember talking to Tettles at the beginning of the tier, and I'm like, his guild's only doing 10 to 12 hours, and they're not doing any splits. Why are we neck and neck right now? Like,
We decided to run it down last night. We were definitely supposed to kill Dimensius last night, but we
were massively running it down last night too. Oh, it was rough.
Dude, I mean, like, look at this. We just had so many P2 wipes for some reason, but then the night before, we were just in phase, or like last Thursday, we were in phase 3 like every single pull. So we were supposed to kill it last night, I'm pretty sure, but we're griefers.
Yeah, I think this boss, I mean, and this is like this with a lot of hard bosses, but they do this sort of thing where you can't have job doers, right? Like I was talking about, okay, our DK is the job doer in this spot, right? But there's so many mechanics where literally every single person in the raid needs to know exactly where you go if you get this, and every single opportunity. Like, you know, for the Devour Soaks, I think, or I don't remember what they're called, but like the gravity and the inverse gravity where you get in the 3 circles. Like literally every single person needs to know like what to do in those situations and where to go and like how to reposition, and it's a lot, right? Because a lot of times in raid you kind of like really, you know, it's almost like a choir in a way where like you're not really worried about everybody, you're just doing your one thing as best you can. But like in this raid you really need to know like at every point in time, okay, if I get this, where do I have to go? Okay, this is a triangle formation, how do I be relative to everybody else? It's very, very tough.
I would describe what we were wiping to as complete grief. Like, not.
I mean, yeah, that's every single person in my guild too. But I try and frame it as we are a great choir preaching to the singing atop the mountaintop.
It just wasn't. It's not like one or two individual people like making mistakes. It's like, oh, this person made a mistake 200 pulls into the boss that I thought we solved 150 ago. That's unfortunate that we're randomly wiping to that now.
Yep.
Oh no.
But yeah, overall, like I think it's a pretty good boss now after those nerfs. Like, but I think a lot of guilds are going to struggle to get double Warlock, double DK, and I think needs to be a more realistic option than MC Life Grip.
Well, okay, so 1 DK and MC Life Grip is pretty reasonable, no?
No, I don't think
it's not that bad.
No, you still have to kill the thing before you leave. You're at a hard time check.
Well, you're gonna get infinite more damage. I think that if anything, I don't agree with it's that the damage check is ever really going to be that bad, because guilds are going to get here 2 months from now and they're going to be 20% more powerful than us. Which is I will say one complaint about this boss: the stop DPS check shit. Somebody's got to fix stop DPSing on bosses not being the worst the best strategy. Please, you have to stop it.
Yeah, for people that maybe don't raid or don't fully understand, basically, for higher end bosses, there tends to be like phases, right? Like, okay, you're done with this phase, go to the next phase, and because it creates like an epic fight. Well, the problem is when you have a really, really hard boss, a lot of times you need to have cooldowns, like your major defensive and offensive cooldowns for certain moments, and it ends up being the most consistent way to play the fight is to just sit there and wait until the right moment and milk it as long as you can until you get your cooldowns. And it's just not fun at all, and it's like it creates this weird situation where it's like the one guy in your guild who doesn't stop damage, like he looks good, and it's just dumb, right? Like for the way that most people play the game, it's just dumb and unfun. I think the biggest solution is they need to like find some way to give you CDR or reset cooldowns when you go to like imagine if you get like a big CDR aura when you fly in the dragon in between P2, so like every single time you like have all your stuff up when you land on the platform. Like I think they need to consider, because it does seem like they kind of do that on purpose, like they give you these moments of break in between the tough action. And I think during those they need to maybe not hard reset your cooldowns, because then it might still have the same problem, but maybe just like give you a little bit of CDR, like okay, you have this leeway of 20 to 30 seconds where you don't necessarily need to hold the weight, you know?
This might be an insane take. Is it? I wonder if it's a problem of healing HPS cooldowns and offensive CDs just being too strong. Like I wonder if they made just straight across the board those kind of tools weaker, you'd be less inclined to like actually hard stop DPS. Because whenever we think about times that it was important to stop DPS, the last time that it was like really important to stop DPS was Sanctum and Domination. You'd stop for Venthy or Moonkin, which is, you know, kind of the same thing that we're experiencing now, where everybody's offensive CDs are just the strongest thing in the game, so you need to stop.
So I think it's a complicated question, because like Race to World First, there wasn't really a damage stop.
That's true.
And I think for a lot of guilds, like especially when progging, you're not going to hit a damage stop point. You know, you're going to get there right on time. And then as you start to play the fight more and more, like we went from like I think it was Sunday night, or like I think it was Thursday night, platform 1, we were like barely making the check with everyone alive, and then by like Sunday, like the last pull on Sunday, we were able to do platform 1 with everyone alive, or sorry, with one person dead, and have to stop DPS. So like I think overall it's just a function of how the fight was tuned, and it's going to solve itself really soon, but on its own. But we're just in this weird point now where the DPS check that is required isn't possible to do without cooldowns. But soon will be.
Okay, yeah, you think the turbo boost is going to be like game changing for that?
I think so, because like realistically, you're waiting for 45 minutes for platform 1, but realistically, I don't know that you necessarily even need platform 1 cooldowns anymore. It's platform 2 cooldowns that you kind of want. And so like there's probably some like interesting thing where you just push phase 1 really early, or you slam your second 2 minutes on platform 1 because it's so early. Platform 2, you kind of just like YOLO push through with just raw DPS, and then you 4 minute 30-second burn or 5-minute burn or something like that. There's probably some weird thing coming up like that.
Your LA shot is gonna be real bad.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I think part of the reason that the turbo boosts and the nerfs and all that exists is to allow that sort of top level content to be completed by more and more players as the season goes on. And while it's true that for us it will be trivial and we'll be able to do it without cooldowns, well, okay, what about the next level of guilds that are now getting to Dimensius? Like, I bet Liquid would laugh, right? Like, if you told Liquid, oh, we need one more turbo boost to do this, they'd probably say, no, this is trivial, this is easy, we don't need to wait, right? But now we feel like we need to wait, and then now it'll be trivial for us, and we won't need to wait. But then the next group of guilds, well, it'll feel, you know, like they need to wait, right? Like I just remember that I was helping a guild out with Gallywix last year, and it was the very last week, right? They were trying to get cutting edge, a bunch of people who had Mythic rated before, and it literally felt exactly like Prog on my guild, even though it was 18% after turbo boost, everything Giga Juice, right? It's like, well, these players are just less experienced, and you know that's just how it is, right? The guilds that are on Dimensius with the 18% are going to be the same as us, our guilds that are on 6%, which is the same as Liquid, who had 0%, you know?
I will say there's never a bad situation to have all of your offensive CDs for the 100% damage burn, right? Like, there's never a situation where you're upset to have all of your cooldowns for that.
I agree. But I think there's ways to go about it. I think like this boss was very, very different, because if you consider each of the platforms and each of the phases a different health bar, which they are, each phase had its own DPS check, which is something that hasn't been seen for a very long time, since Kel'Thuzad. And guess what happened on Kel'Thuzad?
Yeah.
You stop DPS.
Yeah.
So like anytime they impose like strict DPS checks, people are going to make sure that they make the next DPS check. And how do you ensure you make the next DPS check? Well, you wait for cooldowns. That's the obvious answer, right? Like, so, you know, I don't know how the exact solve is here, but you know, you look at last year, you had, you know, Galliux with the entire fight being a DPS checked. You had Muggsy with only the last phase being a DPS check. Same with One Arm Bandit. The last phase was a DPS check. And you generally had your phase 1, you know, go longer. You held DPS to make sure you had a good burn. It's just the problem is with this is every phase was a DPS check. And so you just waited for cooldowns on every phase. That's kind of like a weird thing that's happened because of this meta.
It's also the constant problem that you're not hitting the boss all the time. Like you phase 1, you kill Dimensius, but you don't really kill him, right? And then you go phase 2 and you're killing his minions. You're not actually hitting the boss. You're not actually trying to progress the fight other than to make it in the last phase. Then the last phase, that's when you're killing Dimensius for real. And so then the damage to the boss is more relevant. But you need to make sure that you have all of your offensive CDs at the very beginning of that because there's 100% damage amp. And so it's like there's a kind of a weird problem with that.
Yeah, I sort of see what you're saying now. Like, it feels like the fights are broken up into a bunch of little fights.
Yeah.
And they all are DPS checks. So it's like, normally in a fight, there's like, okay, there's this one moment where you have to hold. And then it's like, it sucks, but it's like one part in a 9-minute fight. But like, because this one's broken up into a bunch of different pieces, it's like 3 different times or 4 different times or whatever you have to hold.
But if you're talking about Galley, I mean, Galley, you were always hitting the boss, right? So that meant that there was never going to be this problem where you really needed to stop DPS because you're always hitting the boss.
Yeah, exactly. And like, there's so many different ways that they could do encounters, and this is just like one of them. I like, for one, I think I kind of like this different change. Like, this is a very different type of fight, and I respect that. I just think it definitely causes like this awful feeling, and I think in the future they're going to have to do another set of nerfs to this, and that will probably resolve all the problems that we have. For the final group of cutting edge, they'll probably somehow reduce the check on warlocks and DKs. They'll probably nerf the health on like Parg or something, and then that will solve everyone's problem because the fight will just be very much easier.
All right. In other news, okay. It's time for Fellowship talk.
No, hold on. We have to have the Growl's Guild update.
Oh, Growl's Guild update. Remember. Yes, of course.
So actually, last week was pretty mellow, but there was obviously there's going to be at least one thing that happens every week. So one of the bits in our guild is we absolutely ruthlessly troll our raid leader Drogo, even though he puts in a pretty fair amount of work. I don't know why no one cares and we just grief him. So last week we had somebody who was bugging Drogo. They made a character named Fat Go. And so then while we were setting up raid last week, someone invited him to the guild. Then he messages Drogo INV, so he has the auto inviter thing, so that he invites people who are in the guild to the raid. The guy gets invited to the raid, then someone summons him to the raid with the warlock portal while he's setting up the note. The guy gets our lockout while we were setting up. Drogo kicks him from the guild. Then the next week, we wanted to extend the lockout, but this random troll guy is in the lockout, and as soon as the reset happens, the guy posts a screenshot of himself next to Dimensius on Mythic because he extended the lockout, basically like either threatening or joking that he was going to sit in the raid and not allow us to fight the boss if we try and extend. And out of fear, we actually re-cleared. We weren't sure if we probably wanted to extend, but we ended up having to re-clear so that we got a new lockout because Fat Go would not be in our raid lockout. I assume this is a highly reportable offense that this guy would have gotten in trouble, and I hope he wouldn't have done it, but yeah, so that was the start to last week. But we ended up getting quite a fair bit of loot that helped out some of our healers, and so the ending was fine. We did not troll on re-clear.
That sucks. Good. That actually sucks a lot.
Yeah, it's when trolling somebody goes a little bit too far for sure. Like, I laugh just because I laughed to... Obviously, there was not a good thing that they did, but that's just how I handle shit like that.
Yeah. I don't know, like, Mythic... We talk about the Mythic lockout a lot. How do you guys feel about it now? Do you still feel like they should get rid of it?
Oh, yeah, I hate it. I think it's just so bad. Like, it makes pugging. I know. They do it for this reason, right? That's the problem. Is they do it because they don't want you to pug Mythic, and they want you to find a home and find a guild and like be a part of that, right? Because that's like how WoW's always been. They feel like WoW is best when you're in part of a guild. The problem is just Mythic is so serious that like it feels like you need to have a schedule, but it just makes the whole idea of like pugging and like, getting your feet wet into Mythic impossible, right? Like, you just have to have this big, like, moment like Farfa had, right? Of like, okay, well, now I'm joining a guild and I'm making this leap. And I bet Blizzard looks back at that fondly and is like, glad that he's having this experience, but it does make it a little bit more frustrating for sure.
Yeah. Tettles.
All right, Fellowship talk.
All right, Fellowship talk.
Tettles will timestamp if you're a tribal WoW guy who just gets super ragey about anything other than WoW. But
this game rocks. I just want to come out and start by this game rocks. A lot of people talk about games being WoW killers. I do not believe that this game is a WoW killer because I do not believe that this game is very similar to WoW in the sense of it's not an MMORPG, right? This is more similar to like an ARPG style game with if you copy pasted like World of Warcraft style characters into an ARPG. This is kind of what that is like. And I actually find this game to be so fun. Growl and I think probably spent 30 hours playing this most recent open beta weekend. You and I were going hard on the ranked leaderboard ladder.
Yeah, so people who aren't familiar, we brought it up on the podcast before. Basically, a video came across in my Discord, and then it ended up spreading a little bit of an indie game up and coming. And the idea is basically it's a standalone M+ game. It's a complete lobby game. There's nothing else to do other than dungeons. But it's built around like dungeon and solo queue progression. And they had their first open beta test this week. And yeah, there's a lot of very, very interesting ideas. The way I see it is everyone who is tribal sort of sees like WoW versus this. I just see this as I love Mythic Plus, and they're doing another spin on Mythic Plus, and this is something that you can do in between seasons when you're bored, and hopefully this is something that Blizzard looks at and is like, okay, this feature owns, because we've talked about the idea of removing add-ons, right? And this is a game that doesn't have add-ons, but at the same time, there's literal copies of like, okay, LVUI, DBM, like, a kick tracker, right? And it's like, okay, this is exactly what Blizzard needs to do. Like, okay, now copy some of this stuff and put it into our game.
Mm-hmm. I think the tribal WoW people, this is like very strange to me but it makes sense because World of Warcraft was kind of always pitched as this game as like this is the only game that you ever have to play ever. But World of Warcraft is definitely getting more seasonal. I think we talked about this like a few episodes ago, where WoW is more seasonal, and I don't know if you guys play other video games like this, but I'll just like jump in and out of seasons of like TFT or something like that, or like Diablo or Path of Exile, and I kind of view this game like Fellowship kind of in a similar light, where it's like it's fun for what it is. I'm not going to main this any more than I main Teamfight Tactics or Diablo, but whenever I'm playing it, I have fun playing it for what it is.
Yeah, so when you talk about ARPGs or that sort, like when you make that comparison, what I see is a game that doesn't necessarily have legs to be like married to it and play it all the time, but a game that's really, really fun, especially to play with your buds when it releases new content for a week or two. And what I really love about WoW is not just Mythic Plus, but also the combat, right? Like having a lot of different skills, utility, having a rotation, like deciding when to use your cooldowns. Like these are all things that don't necessarily exist that well in an ARPG. It's mostly about your build and about farming and, which is cool, right? I'm not saying it's worse in any way, but I just really like this combat style. And this is basically that ARPG sense of like, hey, a game to play for a period with your buds when you're bored of WoW. But it has that WoW itch of like, okay, I have 7 different healing buttons, and this one's mana efficient, and this is, a heal over time that will last longer, and this is like a shield that's good against one-shots. And yeah, it really, it's a really, really cool game. Obviously, there's a lot of problems. I would say the biggest problem that everyone unanimously agrees on this was the servers were just crap.
Yeah.
They had like problems with the matchmaking, DCs and stuff, but like, to me, that's the best problem that you could have because that one's fixable, right? Like if you go in and the boss fights are boring or the characters are clunky or something like that, then it's like, oh, this game might not be good.
I would maybe start looking into change the reward structure a little bit on this game in terms of like, I would especially say like the first like few hours that you're playing, the reward structure feels a little bit slow. To the point where it's like kind of hard to get like super addicted to it at the very beginning, but as you continue to progress through and you get up to adept or you get up to champion level ranking, whenever you're actually doing the dungeons or adventures or whatever, I think it's fantastic in that regard. And I also really like the short queue time. So basically how it is there's 1 boss adventures or there's 3 boss dungeons, and depending on what level you're trying to do, you get different ones. The adventures are 15 minutes and the 3 boss dungeons are 30 minutes, but the 1 boss adventures being 15 minutes is always fantastic. There's always a reason to kind of continue to be grinding too, because you're getting a bunch of constantly progressing gear upgrades. Even doing slightly lower level content gives you gold. It gives you the ability to be able to like scrap down and disenchant some of your gear for continued rewards. And you can also, once you get to like really high level rewards, you can just mail a bunch of gear over to alt characters, which it allows you to like jumpstart your character a lot faster. And I think that that's fine, but I do think the rewards for maybe like the first few hours that you're playing are maybe a little bit slow. I would maybe like to tackle that if I was them, but yeah.
I think the big thing that this game needs to do is they clearly took inspiration from WoW.
Yeah.
I think they need to make sure that they release their new seasons and their new updates between WoW seasons. Because
Yes, absolutely.
I think people who play this will absolutely can cohabitate with WoW players. That seems to be like the design, right? You want to grab both of them. And so, like back in the day, we had Diablo 3 and PoE, and people happily played both of them. Like you have a Diablo 3 season, you grind that out, you get your pretty close to Bis gear, and then you're like, I'm done. All right, PoE season time. Let's go play PoE for a bit, that kind of thing. And I could absolutely see this happening here with this game as well. As long as they don't try to cannibalize each other, I think they could live happily together.
So something that Dorky came in my chat whenever we were streaming Growl and asked was, after having played this game, do you have a different stance on solo queue for Mythic Plus?
Ooh, so he did that to me too, because Dorky's a longtime solo queue fan, and we've notably been against it. So here's what I think. I think solo queue. Here we go with Taylor. Here's the solo queue rant.
This game has solo queue. I think that very notably for those who haven't really maybe checked out some of the stuff with Fellowship, basically it is a lobby game, kind of like Growl described, where you're able to solo queue into groups that are constantly trying to continue to progress. Okay, so now continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think if the game is built around solo queue and there's a good solo queue system, I think solo queue would own. So like my sort of example like this with WoW is, imagine if you had a separate rating, completely separate from Raider.io, and you actually could like maybe lose rating. I mean, this game actually you do not lose rating, but it would put you in a group and you would sort of like not necessarily be in the highest key possible that you could be, but it's more about consistency rather than just like going through a brutally hard key or whatever. And then your rating is based off of how you succeed in that key. And eventually, once you have a high enough success rate, you're like, we'll move up in rating and you'll get placed with higher people. And maybe some sort of matchmaking system that like makes sure it matches certain, okay, we always have a lust, we always have a disease dispel, etc.
Sure.
And the system like exists in hierarchies, right? Like it's not necessarily this is different from, okay, you just have a queue to do your weekly 10s. Like, I think that would be cool in WoW, but that's like different from a solo queue progression system, right? The problem is I just don't see WoW ever implements, like this is out of the scope of WoW to implement the solo queue progression system. And so I just don't see a world where, like, how would you solo queue into a plus 17 key? Like, how would that work? Who would you get paired with? What would be required? There's just so many questions. So I'm not against the solo queue system in WoW, but I just think what they would implement it wouldn't be good enough, and it would split people in between the queue and LFG, which would just end up increasing queue times.
I will say also something that this game does well that they would have to tackle if they wanted to implement a solo queue for Mythic Plus is like, there's constantly a reason to continue to do lower level content in this game, whether it be it just with how their reward structure is kind of set up. There's always a reason to be looking to do like lower level content, or maybe you're not ready to push up towards that next level. Where in World of Warcraft for Mythic Plus, there is no reason for you to do a 10 again if you've already done a 10, right? Like in terms of just looking at score. But then there's these problems where there's conflicting goals for people in World of Warcraft, where some people are looking to do their vaults, some people are looking to push score, some people are trying to farm hero track gear, some people are trying to get achievements, some people are trying to push rank 1 Mythic Plus title, and the conflict of those goals, I think, actually works against a solo queue kind of working for Mythic Plus, where you would have to have everybody having unified goals, where in Fellowship, there kind of is always this unified goal, where you're always trying to continue to increase your player power, but the increase of your player power might not be continuing to go up a keystone level, right? The increase of your player power might actually be looking to farm out more gear, or running a lower dungeon to get a little bit more gold to continue to upgrade your gear, because you can always make your character stronger even when you're doing lower level content, but you're not always progressing your character in World of Warcraft whenever you're doing lower level content.
I also have a question. I didn't play this on beta weekend. I was busy. How are queue times? Just as a baseline.
Pretty okay. So there was a bug at the very beginning, where contenders queue is like the low. So we're in champion right now. We're in champion queue. Contenders queue is like the lowest level of ranked. They changed how the rank system works, and there was a bug where people had 0 gear score and 0 rating. Were sitting in like really long queue times. That I believe got patched like halfway through the beta weekend, and so then those people were starting to get instant queues. I would say that the longest I ever sat for a queue as a DPS was probably 5 minutes at the most. But I do know that they released some results where like 70% of the people who were playing this game were healers. So I know that some of the healers who had been playing the game had experienced pretty long queue times. Maybe Growl can speak on that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I talked with Hamish, I think his name is, a little bit about the distribution and stuff. So essentially the way it works is there's brackets. So imagine there's like, so in WoW terms, imagine like, okay, +2, +3, +4, +5, those are all like specific dungeons and specific affixes. And those are assigned, right? And you can do any of those dungeons and farm them for loot. And then there's a +6, and then +6 is a bigger dungeon, and it's got more affixes and mechanics on it. And in order to advance in the next bracket, you have to time a +6. So in theory, you could do any of the 2 through 5s and farm them for loot or do whatever, time them for score. But in order to go to the next bracket, you have to do like the the ultimate dungeon.
The 3 boss dungeon, right? Yeah.
Right. So quick play is essentially like, whatever. That's like the beginning. You're a noob, you farm it. And then there's brackets, right? So there's 4 different brackets. Quick play, there was 70% healers, which is very, very interesting. I think the healers in the game are cool, but I think all the classes are kind of cool. Everyone seemed happy with it. I don't know what it was about healers. As you move up in brackets, it becomes more and more like WoW. So in the like a second bracket, I believe it was like pretty evenly distributed, like what you'd expect between tanks, healers, and DPS. And in the second bracket, queues were like pretty quick because it seemed pretty balanced. In the third bracket, nobody tanks again, and it's just like high keys and WoW. And so, for example, I was in queue with Terrathal yesterday twice for over 10 minutes straight as a healer plus DPS because I just can't find tanks. Okay. And then as soon as I got a tank, we would find matches within 1 or 2 minutes.
And that's what I basically wanted to say. I feel like there's just going to be, like, this is an open beta, and I have a feeling that the more, like, I obviously don't know this to be true, but I have a feeling that the more people that try an open beta are going to... There's a higher population that is going to gravitate towards tanks and healers.
Yep.
And because the general player base, again, like the same things like that bother or that make tanking and healing harder in Mythic Plus and WoW is going to translate to this game as well. Tanks need to know the route. Tanks need to also survive. That kind of stuff as well. And, as we go into the release of this game, I wouldn't be surprised to see tank populations drop off a cliff to be similar to WoW, and healers to also start faltering as well. So I would be really curious to see if that follows the same way. So while queue times might be okay right now, will that hold up when you have a bunch of influx of people who may or may not choose DPS just to blast?
They need to make sure that there is like even distribution, because otherwise that can create huge problems, because it doesn't matter how fun your game is. If you're not playing for 35 minutes at a time, it's not very fun, unfortunately.
Exactly.
So one thing that I liked, I felt like, and again, because this is a standalone game and all they're doing is M+, I feel like the difficulty curve feels a lot better. Like one thing I commented on was that I would do these like very basic dungeons, right, in the very first bracket or maybe even quick play, but there would still be pass fails on bosses, and they might be very, very simple, right? So there's one boss where at 50% health, she jumps off the platform and then starts sucking everybody in, and you have to hook yourself to this pillar in the middle of the platform, right? It's like by far the easiest pass fail knowledge check ever. Literally just click a pillar. But like in the newbier dungeons, people just die, right? It'd just be like LFR Razageth, right? You don't know what's going on, you get knocked off the platform. And it felt a little foreign to me from a WoW perspective, because normally in WoW, it's like, you just can't possibly die in these lower level dungeons, like these heroics or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But it was kind of interesting because I'm like, well, okay, at some point there are pass-fail mechanics, right? Like everybody has learned in Arakara on the last boss, they've had that experience where, you play with people who don't know how it works, they get sucked in and die, and now you're just sitting here with people dead, right? Like at some point there has to be mechanics that kill you, and it does a nice way of like introducing them slowly up the progression curve in a way that makes more sense. Like one thing that WoW kind of does is like it introduces the mechanics, but they don't actually kill you or do anything, and people don't learn them, right? Like, oh, you get sucked in and then you lose 25% of your health and you don't care and you just,
Bro,
But in this game, like they actually kind of, so I think that is a little nicer for tanks and healers in a way because they, you sort of learn the very basics and then you get to the first or second bracket and everybody knows, okay, you chain yourself to the pillar. But now there's a dispel that you got to get out. And it's like they introduce the mechanics in a more smooth way that WoW's difficulty is, where WoW, it feels like, oh, all of a sudden you get to a 10 and now you need to respect this boss, but nobody knows how it works and you just like die over and over.
That is, I pitched this a while back, and Mythic Plus should have some pass-fail one-shot mechanics, even at low levels, and got flamed the fuck out. Like,
Don't read the
I
comment
100%
section,
agree with
man.
you.
Do not read the comment section.
I 100% agree with you. Growl, why are you off the edge right now?
Wait, Tettles, how did you randomly click into my VOD? And okay, what? I lagged or something. I don't know. Okay, I didn't click the pillar in the middle of the room. Okay, I don't know how you found this clip, but I lagged.
Incredible, but yeah, like
I think you might have actually lagged because you did click it, but there were server issues all weekend, which.
Yeah,
yes.
I 100% agree with you because the only way to teach people that this is a one-shot mechanic is to kill them and make them learn that is how they died. Like, I'm sorry, like no amount of, for people that don't understand the game, the easiest way to tell when you fucked up is if you just get one shot and die.
Yep.
And when you die like this, you know exactly what happened, man.
So here's an interesting thing, and again, I'm trying to point out the good things in the game, but also kind of like thinking about it in WoW terms. So in this world, in the world of Fellowship, everybody gets something at the end of the dungeon, right? You always get an item. You may get resources as well, which in the WoW equivalent would be like crests or Valor Stones. But here's the thing. In this game, crests are uncapped. Everything is uncapped, right? Because there's no raid, there's no PvP, there's no time gating. All there is M+, right? So why not uncap it? So if you are with some stinky group and then your idiots don't know to latch yourself to the guy at the end, right? Well, okay, we'll teach them. Okay, hey, you gotta latch yourself to that thing. You finish the dungeon, you don't time it, but you still get your full rewards and your character still gets slightly stronger every single key that you do. And so the failure doesn't necessarily feel like failure because there's still something that you gain. But WoW has this problem where, okay, you're doing a +7 because you need to get your weekly 10 and you're moving up, but like you don't need the loot from what you're doing. You don't gain anything. You may be capped on crests. You may be not need Valor Stones. And so you or even worse, you do need something from the dungeon, and then you open the chest and it's 12 gold, which is like literally nothing. And so you end up having this scenario where you do feel like your time was wasted or that you don't even want to be in the run because it's not timed and completed. Whereas in Fellowship, it's not necessarily because it was an open beta. Like, we've all played WoW on PTR where you still have those shitheads in your group that leave on the second pull or, like, feel like they're playing for score or whatever, right? But on Fellowship, people would always explain stuff and finish keys. And it's not because the community's better. It's the same people. But it's because you gain something from the end of every dungeon. There's a reason to finish it. Like, I did a key where we wiped to a boss, and then we had somebody leave. But it's like, hey, let's just finish the dungeon anyway with this guy, even though it's gonna take long because we get loot. Like, why would we just leave when we're halfway to our loot or whatever? And I don't know if that's how you make that in WoW, right? Because you do always get something at the end of a dungeon in WoW, right? You do always get crests or Valor Stones, but the problem is there's a cap. So like after your first couple dungeons of the week, there's no reason to play unless you're playing for score or whatever.
So I said earlier that I don't know if Fellowship's rewards are enticing enough, especially for the first couple of levels, but I think the reward structure that they have created, for the reasons that Growl outlined, makes it work really well for this game whenever you're continuing to progress up the leaderboards.
Yeah, and first, the starting player, I wanted to add to you, for the starting player, we're all M+ nerds. Like, a majority of the people that are playing this game are familiar with M+. But they do have to consider that they want people to play this game that have never played M+ in their life, right?
Yes.
And so while the progression feels kind of stupid, right, for us, like a lot of people commented, you start the game, you don't have a mount, you don't have you have 3 buttons, you don't have a rotation, right? But I mean, okay, you're level 1, right? Like if you've never played M+ before, it kind of is, you have to learn what's going on. And so while it was slow and clunky for us, I think that they have to have it that way for people who are brand new to the genre, who have never, don't even know what a game is like, that don't even know what a dungeon is like.
I think Squishy's trying to get something, and then I'll follow up on that. What did you say?
Basically, I do think Blizzard needs to think of the reward structure, because completing a dungeon, like, okay, whether or not Blizzard intends it, Mythic Plus is becoming more and more solo focused.
Sure.
And while we may or may not agree that solo queue is right for the game is getting more and more solo focused, and nothing sucks more, like Growl said, than opening your chest and getting fucking 12 gold. So, like, I think there's probably an in-between where you get something like that works towards, whatever you're looking for, but isn't, giving everyone a piece of gear in WoW, because I think that would probably be a little too much. But maybe not, actually, because, like, if you think about how many times you've probably farmed for a specific trinket for Mythic Plus, or, anything like that, sometimes it's a lot. 20 plus, 25 plus runs to get, fucking Parapodia or something.
Okay.
I still have never got one. Would it be that bad if you guaranteed a piece of loot at the end of the dungeon?
I mean, the thing with Fellowship is that it had an infinitely scaling gear system, which I think was the reason that it worked.
Well, sort of infinite. It feels infinite because we're noobs, but in reality, it's very similar to WoW, where there is a myth track, there is a max level item cap. What I would say is, I think what would be cool is, I mean, there's so many currencies in WoW, but a type of currency where everything, sort of like AP, right? But AP is relating to player power, and I think people don't want that. I almost am thinking something along the lines of like reputation, or like trader's tender with that vendor. Where imagine if there's like a vendor in town where you can spend this currency to buy certain things, like maybe hero track, trinkets, or certain things, and then also having some very, very high up rewards that are like, spend a ton of the currency, but then you get a mount, or, you can buy one of like the dungeon drop mounts, or maybe like, certain cosmetics or a title, something that like it at least feels like, well, whatever, I'll finish this dungeon because my goal this season is to buy this mount.
Yeah.
And it just to like give you a reason to feel like your time isn't wasted. And I think while everyone loves player power, they also are a little bit more cosmetic driven, and I think maybe that's a good middle ground of like some sort of cosmetic currency that you can use to buy stuff, even if you don't need anything like trinkets or crests or whatever.
Are you not just describing a battle pass?
Sort of, but I mean, to be fair, WoW did try and do that, right? Like, thinking back, like when I said AP, I kind of like had a slowdown moment, because WoW did do that, right? Like in Legion and in BFA, you did get AP every single time you did a dungeon, and it directly related to your player power. But like that also sort of felt like a problem, because people, I'm not going to get into the AP discussion, but it has its pros and cons, right? And people don't like it. It makes it feel bad whenever you want to play a new character or whatever, when this AP system exists and relates to player power. But maybe an AP system that is sort of like a battle pass, but I guess I want something that maybe can help with player power if you are on an alt, if you're new, if you're trying to catch up. But then if you're somebody who plays the game a lot, maybe you still something that doesn't feel like it's nothing. Like getting weathered crests because you're capped on gilded and runed and carved, it's just like nothing, right? Like it's literally nothing that your character's gaining.
Okay, yeah. So I do want to circle back to something you were saying earlier about Fellowship being not so slow to start, because I think that kind of ties into what you're saying too, where you're like, well, you have to teach players somehow. The problem that I kind of would have with that though is that whenever you pick up a new hero, you have to, or like you even start a new season after you've played for a previous season, you have to start from the very beginning again, which you go back to being an amoeba, which feels kind of bad, but maybe it's so short-lived that it doesn't matter.
Ooh, so I will sell Fellowship again. So one of the cool things is, not only is there this uncapped crest Valor Stone system, but it is account wide. So let's say you have a main character and then you start an alt. You can actually use your currency that your main, and your main gains it at a much faster rate to gear an alt very, very, very quickly. On top of that, let's say you play an alt, like what I did was a buddy of mine started playing, so I just made a level 1 guy to play with him. But I didn't really care about that guy, and my friend was only going to play for a day. I'm actually farming currency, granted at a very slow rate, on that guy, and I'm not even spending it. And then when I go back to my main, I'm like, hey, I actually got a couple of crests and a couple of valor stones on my main.
Yeah, sure.
So while I do agree that, okay, making a new alt, you feel like an amoeba because you don't have your like main spells. I think if you're a good player, you gain them very, very quickly. Like within an hour, you have a lot of stuff. It does feel a little weird though to be like, the content that we were doing. Yes. I would describe some of it as like very difficult to like borderline impossible at our item level, and we didn't even have our kits unlocked. Like I remember one thing that's interesting is like I'm kind of looking up builds and seeing what other people are coming up with, and I'm like, oh, I can't even do that. Like I don't even have all my talent. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like imagine you're level 60 in WoW, and then you open up AJ's stream and you're like, what's a good healer build for level 60 dungeons? And you're like, oh, I can't even get those spells. It's like, it definitely feels a little bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, Fellowship looks good. I'm excited to try when it comes out for real. I guess my question for you is like, if you could bring one thing from Fellowship into WoW, what would it be?
You want the easy one, Tettles, or you want me to take it?
Oh yeah.
So Fellowship has a built-in kick tracker marking system. And so the way it works is, in WoW, what people do is you have like, okay, your circle, your triangle, your X or whatever, and then people will mark their guy in a dungeon, and then that's kind of like your guy to shut down and kick, right? And you have a kick tracker. You have to download an add-on to see what everybody else's kicks are. So Fellowship has those two built together. So when I mark my guy as, okay, this is my kick, it shows an icon next to the nameplate with my portrait on there. And then, so that shows, okay, this is my kick. And when I kick, it shows the cooldown. So for instance, let's say I accidentally whiff a kick, or a mob may have multiple kicks. You can look at their nameplate and you can see, oh, this guy is supposed to have this mob, but his kick is on cooldown. I'm going to help him and I'm going to kick it. And in my opinion, this is like so unbelievably elegant compared to like the add-on solution that WoW has, that when they build, like everyone said, WoW needs to, you can't play without Omni CD or whatever. I mean, there's no Omni CD in Fellowship. Like WoW needs to build this in, I think, ASAP with their when they remove Omni CD or trackers or whatever. This is like so good for interrupts.
Yeah. I'm between a couple. I actually think adventures are something that maybe Blizzard could be looking to explore, where it's, instead of everything being a 3-boss or 4-boss dungeon, maybe just like a 1-boss instance. I think it actually works really well for Fellowship. Granted, their progression system and how you actually progress the levels and tiers is a bit different, but I do think the 15-minute dungeon feels quite nice. The other thing that I actually liked a lot, and this is maybe similar to offensive CDs in World of Warcraft, but they have ultimates in this game, and I really like. I don't know how Growl felt about it. I really liked how the ults felt. It doesn't feel like an offensive CD in World of Warcraft where you try to multiply it with all of your different abilities. It's just like, wow, this is like Bloodlust plus every offensive CD from all of your favorite classes that you'd ever want ever, and it like always works super well with whatever character you have.
Yeah, so the cooldowns are interesting. So first of all, Bloodlust is built in with your major cooldown.
Yeah.
So when you pop your cooldown, you get Lust. So you aren't necessarily bound by the other group members, wanting their Lust. For example, as a healer, you may want to use your cooldowns and Lust at the end of the fight when it's really tough and the boss is enraging. But your DPS want to pop them on pull because they, are doing big damage and their damage is up, right? So I think that's pretty cool. Another interesting side effect of that is like your ult is on a charge system that like builds up over time. And if you deplete a key, that's sort of like the protection or whatever to help you finish. Yeah. Is your ult has a way shorter cooldown. So like imagine if like, okay, let's say you deplete a key, your cooldown of like your major CDs is like split in half. So like you basically just have CDs for every single pack, which is really, really cool as well.
Did you love or hate the healer power in this game?
I've been liking it. However, as we've been going higher and higher up, it's feeling more and more like WoW in the sense that I have like these crazy buttons and the health bars are going nuts. At the very end of my stream yesterday, which probably my like last session or whatever, when I was playing with Terrathal, we were trying to pug like very, very high level champ dungeons. And the boss that we were fighting, basically the way it worked is there's 6 orbs that goes put around the room and they blow up when you kill them or on a timer. And so you basically want to like slowly pop the orbs one by one to kind of like let your healer catch up. But the level that we were doing at was so insane in the amount of damage that people were like, it was basically like, you know, end of expansion healer player power where I'm just like mashing CD after CD and the bars are going up and down and everything's fucking crazy. And it was like, yeah, I don't know. It was definitely feeling more and more like WoW, where you just have a lot of CDs and there's a lot of creep. It is nice that there's not like tons and tons of defensives that you're worrying about or whatever, but yeah, it definitely felt a lot like WoW as soon as I started getting my entire kit.
Okay.
I think the one thing that you mentioned, Tettles, is adventures, and I really love that idea. Like it gives a mini dungeon experience for people that don't have 35 minutes. Because I know there's been a bunch of times I'm like, you know, I have 15 minutes till I need to do something. I can't do a dungeon, so I guess I'm just gonna sit around and do nothing, right? Like, but if you could get something done and get some rewards from a 15-minute thing, that's awesome. Like, I really like that idea.
All right. Enough fellowship talk. Are we done?
Do I want to make the WoW tribalists mad anymore? I'm trying to think.
If you want to check out Fellowship, I think they're going into early access in the middle of October, right? But that's like a paid early access, isn't it? It's like $25, and I think that
I think that's just like the game price or whatever.
Yep.
But obviously, every game in 2025 just releases way before it's done, and then lets you pay for it because why wouldn't they? Because everyone wants to play it anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I think that's the case. Yeah, and to be fair, this isn't like before people get mad. This isn't like sponsored or anything. I mean, obviously, we've talked with the community manager and some of their team, and we just think it's cool. But yeah, this isn't like. Believe me, I wish I could get paid. I'm like waiting for them to like offer it, but I think they know I'm playing it anyway. I'm just like,
I think they clocked Growl and I as addicts of the game, anyways. I think
Yeah.
I don't know how much time you put in. I think on my Steam played, I think I'm like 30 hours or something like that from just this playtest.
Mine's a lot, but I'm pretty sure I just leave the game open or like.
Oh,
something.
okay.
Mine says 90, but there's no way it was 90.
Okay. Yeah, a Growl and I were literally just queued up in like a 4-stack, just grinding Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like all day.
Yeah, it's just nice, like, I don't know, being able to do a dungeon and just like, okay, you killed, you know, I don't know, just like feel like there's no. A lot of times in WoW, you're like, the only reason to do the dungeon is in time, right? Like we kind of had that discussion with Farfa the other day about being in a key and like, okay, one guy needs a trinket, and it's like, yeah, you want to be a nice guy, but at the same time, like, you know. Okay, are 4 people going to sit here for 20 minutes because one guy needs one chance at one thing? Like,
exactly.
But it's, you know, at least imagine if you could get something from it. Like, that's cool, but also I don't know how it would work in WoW.
For the WoW tribalists, again, I think Growl put it eloquently at the very beginning, where it's not like you have to pick World of Warcraft or Fellowship. You can definitely play both, like at the exact same time, and it's not even a problem.
No, I just see it as like a total benefit. Like,
yeah.
Hopefully, like Squishy said, it's something to do in between seasons. Hopefully, it's just another way to innovate the genre. I mean, in my opinion, I was thinking about this yesterday. The War Within might be the greatest expansion for Mythic Plus that WoW's had. Like, I definitely have fond memories of BFA, and Legion's a tough one because that was like the release. But like, man, the way that they changed affixes, like the reward system, like how good the gear is you get, like dungeon balance, how frequently they tune things, like dude, Floodgate is, in my opinion, such a good dungeon, even though it's quite challenging. Like, I think M Plus is so good right now, and like another spin on it is just only good for it. I think.
I will say that people would probably be mad with that take because they remember season 1 being too hard, but I think that you're talking about like ways that Blizzard has moved the game forward.
Oh, yeah, 100% it had a rocky start. 100% it did.
I forgot that Dragonflight had bolstering and sanguine, man. Like,
yep.
It's only been one expansion of these new affixes.
I'm telling you, these people who design Mythic Plus are constantly cooking. Like, I don't know. These people, they've gotten Mythic Plus figured out, I think.
I'm curious what they do in Midnight with Mythic Plus, because theoretically, I think they said that they'll refresh the Xal'atath affixes every expansion. So, like, are we going to get 4 new affixes? You know, that kind of thing? Or are they just going to be like, you know, different flavored balls.
Do we
and different
need
flavored like
do we need new affixes? This might sound insane. Like I if they do it, they probably should just do it because to keep things fresh. But like, do we actually need them?
I think they said they were going to, which is the only reason why I'm bringing it up. But I don't know that we need to. But granted,
Yeah.
I don't play with affixes anymore, so like.
Oh, wait. Okay, I have one more thing that I want to bring up for Fellowship.
Okay.
This will be Squishy's thing that he wants to add. So they have a really, really cool trinket system where like everyone shares trinkets and they all are like utility. So there's one trinket that is a sheep. It basically just removes a mob from the dungeon. Now it only has 3 charges, but when it removes the mob, it also removes it that it doesn't give count. And so it's actually very, very interesting for routing and like decision making because you can remove a mob, like it just removes it, like it just turns it into a chicken and it just does nothing. So for instance, you can use that to group different pulls that you normally could. If there's a pull that's really tough for your group and you literally can't even do a pull, you could remove one of the casters or one of the big mobs. Doesn't come without a cost because you only have 3 charges and it removes the count, but it was actually really, really cool as a healer to be like, okay, my tank's not very smart and he does this pull that's not a thing. I'll just sheep this guy because I know my team isn't going to kick him.
I love and hate that at the same time. I love the idea that like you can customize the pulls even more than like, there's 3 obliterators in this pull. Let's say no, like Blizzard, no, we're making it a 1 obliterator pull. But also from a tank pugging perspective, that would be abysmal. Like, I have this perfect route, and suddenly 3 of my mobs are just gone. Okay, how do I fix this now?
That was actually a thing when we were doing it. I think it might have even been Tettles, where we do the first pull of a dungeon, like a big pull, and the big mob of the pull instantly gets sheeped. And I'm thinking like, oh wow, our tank like brought the sheep trinket and like did this pull because he's like, oh, that was like a cool thing. And Tettles like, nah, that was me. Fuck that mob. I don't want to fight that. And then I'm like, well, okay, now our tank who had this route just has to figure out now what to do because Tettles sheep this mob.
I like as a pre-made group that is very, very interesting, and I like the ability to customize your dungeon more than the developers give you because sometimes you really don't want to fight a number of mobs together that Blizzard or the designers of Fellowship may have put in front of you. So that's cool. I like that level of customization, but I know it's just an utter train wreck. Like, because routing is just a nightmare for tanks.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. That maybe that is a little too grief for pugs.
It's a cool idea for innovation, though. Like, I like we talk about affixes causing innovation, but we like the thing that I always come back to is other seasonal games that they just have cool modifiers like that. Where instead of having like affix changes from season to season, you just have an interesting buff or an interesting extra action button. Like you could have a season where that is a thing for WoW, and you can like sheep 3 things as a group, or maybe another season, you can you can buff a mob by to have 100% more health, but it gives you 200% more count. Like
it's kind of funny that you say that because the first thing I thought of was the legendary cape in the Manaforge raid. I feel like for the entire raid, the cape is like so stupid. It's just like a random extra action button that you need to press. Except for on the first boss, it's actually very cool during the intermission, right? Yeah. Like the fact that not only do you have to use it to deal with a mechanic, but in the intermission, you can kind of use it on your own, right? Like you can use it to get through the orbs or like dodge the lines on the ground and stuff. Like they definitely, like that was a really, really cool idea. Like I would like to see maybe more of that where it's like, okay, this is just something that everybody gets to use or is like part of the encounter, not like a lot of times it's just a little bit too boring.
This season, everybody gets Blink. Like, sure, that's probably OP, but now you can design things where everybody has Blink.
All right, I have an idea. Okay, what if everybody in a season gets their own personal bloodlust?
Holy shit!
You're cooking. I think.
But I think that that's the kind of level of season changes that I would love to see in WoW. It doesn't need to be like crazy. It doesn't need to be a full-on bloodlust, but like 10% damage for 20 seconds or something. On an individual level, that's a cool little thing. Like I want to pop it on this pull, or damage reduction, or whatever. I think there's some innovation levels there that they can go for.
All right, yeah, that's enough Fellowship talk. We don't want to make people too ragey.
We want to talk about the alpha.
Yeah. So I actually funny enough, I mean, obviously as creators, we maybe know a little bit more than we can say, but I woke up today and I saw Max's stream title was like Midnight Alpha soon, and I'm just like, bro, what? This guy is completely out of control. Because I mean, I didn't know this was public, but apparently, yeah, this is the thing, right? Blizzard has announced that there's a big thing going on what the first and the second or something. You guys know more than me. I didn't even know that they announced this publicly.
Squishy, you want to go through what's going on?
Yeah, so basically, they announced that there is the alpha on October 2nd, which is awesome because we finally get midnight stuff. But the day before, there's going to be a deep dive and also a live developer Q&A, something we have not seen for a very, very long time, I feel like, other than like BlizzCon and live events.
Yeah.
Like, remember the days of like Lore and Ian Hazacostas?
Yep, I do
Way
remember
back
those.
when.
Those are sick. Those are really cool. And then Lore would like pretty clearly ask questions from chat that Ian was not ready for, and Ian would have to just answer them on the spot. That was always really funny.
Good old Lore.
Yeah, I miss those. But I mean, I'm glad that they're doing this. And then they released a roadmap, which was very interesting because it looks like we might not even be getting Apex talents news until phase 4 of the alpha. And that was like one of their defining features with the expansion.
Okay, so like I will say that people need to temper their expectations for what they're going to get in an alpha. More often than not, I think I'm reading through all this stuff. All through phase 5, it's basically just going to be leveling stuff. That's going to be like the only content if you actually jump in and play the alpha.
Yeah, I mean, just so people know, like phase 1 is what we assume we're getting on the second, and that's going to be a single zone, the story and the level up quests. It looks like housing, 2 dungeons, 3 delves, so Growl can go be a mole person again.
Yes.
The new delve companion, class updates, which is I think what the majority of people will care about, including Devourer Demon Hunter and professions. Like, I think the biggest thing there is probably the class updates, right? People want to know what they're like, who is getting reworks, like what the Devourer Demon Hunter is going to play like that
hero
kind of
talent changes, I think, too. Like if anybody's going to get like any hero talent changes, because I think that some of the most important content whenever you were going from expansion to expansion, obviously there's the lore, there's the bosses, there's the content itself, but everybody's kind of wanting their spec to get, or their class to get changed in some capacity to make it feel better. And I feel like very few people are ever really happy with their class, right? I think it's one of those things that like large expansion changes, you're hoping for a rework to your class to make it better. Not even just tuning wise, I'm just talking about like make it more fun to play.
Not necessarily even a rework for certain classes, I feel like, but just changes, you know, like a better pathing down the tree, there's a side that you don't touch, you know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah, I want to second that temper your expectations part. You know, everyone's always excited. I mean, I am too, right? Like, I might even be saying this to myself. But there's just, you know, they roll out the content very, very slowly. It's not going to be finished. You know, you may, like, it's very possible that phase 1, you know, you're looking at your class and there's not a single change and they haven't even released anything. Like, there's lots of classes that didn't even get touched until very late into the alpha or the beta in the last expansion. So just, you know, we're all excited. We all can't wait for midnight. You know, now most people have gotten, you know, to experience the content of season 3 and they're kind of looking forward. But unfortunately, we're still a ways away. And yeah, but either way, still very, very excited. Should be really, really cool.
Now, they released the War Within alpha 4 months prior to the release of the War Within, but I feel like with this roadmap that they're giving us, I would be a little bit surprised if they weren't a little bit further out. Mostly because, like, whenever War Within alpha released, 50% of the specs in the game had both of their hero talents, and then the remaining specs got all their hero talents pretty quickly after the release of the alpha, except for Shaman and Rogue, which I think got theirs really late, but who cares about Shaman and Rogue?
I mean, the only thing that they need to do, like, there's no hero talents this time. I mean, there's
Apex
like
talents, right?
Yeah, so there's the 1 extra row of hero talents and then the Apex talents. Those are the big guaranteed class changes to every spec. And that is, I mean, the hero talent one is probably going to be some passive thing that is kind of cool maybe for your spec, and they probably add more defensive value to the game, if I'm going to be honest. But the Apex one, I think, is the thing that people are questioning the most because they only showed 2 specs Apex talents at Gamescom, and they were, I'll be honest, not that exciting to me. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
Have they announced anything about
yeah.
the Apex talents? Wait. Are you talking about the Presovoker one and the Devour Demon Hunter one?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I know nothing about either of those specializations. Nobody plays either of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that new stuff. It depends on where you are, right? Like how you experience the game. You know, people like us who are a bit more serious, we want to see how a class plays. We want to see what the dungeons are like, what the raids are like. And unfortunately, that's just not something that will be in the game for a little while. I know a lot of people are like that too. But, you know, there is lots of other stuff in the game. And, you know, maybe just looking at flavor, lore, whatever.
Yeah.
I am interesting. I think the player housing stuff is really, really, really cool. Like, I'm really looking forward to see how all that's implemented. Like, I was talking earlier about how, it'd be cool if there was some cosmetic currency that we had. Like, that, you know, what if, I mean, that's a great start to, you know, some way that do whatever content in the game you can do and work your way towards making a cool house or whatever. Like, I think that there's so much to gain from player housing and neighborhoods and all that when in terms of the WoW community, because I just think that's, you know, it is an MMO at the end of the day, even though a lot of us play it like a lobby game.
Now, I will ask, housing and delves, and honestly, even like dungeons, I feel like doing a lot of stuff on like Tournament Realm or PTR or Alpha cycles, it's just way less fun than doing it on live, right? And I feel like housing is no exception to that, where sure, you could like play around with housing on Alpha some, but it's probably not going to be as much fun as being able to do it with your live character on your live account with something that has more permanence to it, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I do think the big thing though is like it's new, so even just seeing what it's like. Right?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Even just seeing how the, you know, I guess maybe some of the stuff is out if you're like really, really into it, you might know, or like if you went to one of the events where you could test it, but I haven't watched anything about it. Like this will all be brand new to me when I see what like the editor is like and what it's like to place things and what sort of limitations you have and all like the UI and stuff.
Now, I want to pose a question. Are we worried about there being no large gameplay changes, like no borrowed power? Like, is housing really going to be enough?
I'm not worried personally, but I think, yeah, I think the people that suffer the most from that are the people who like really, really enjoy one class or like have one character that they love, but at the same time, like, you know, they come back to every expansion and they kind of want like a more fresh feeling. And like rogues and demon hunters, for example, kind of had that at the beginning of this expansion, mostly rogues, where it's like it felt like they were kind of like abandoned a little bit, where like all these other classes were getting all these new toys and it was some of their stuff was a lot uninspired. So to me personally, like, I don't know, I played lots of different classes. If I go into next expansion, if mage or priest or whatever is sucks or boring or doesn't get anything, like surely one class will play totally different and be very fun to play.
I'm kind of okay with it for the start of expansion. Because there's going to be so much going on. You're going to have to level up. Like, you're going to have to learn how the new gearing system works. Because I assume this probably changes the gearing system, right? Like, I don't actually know that. But given the way that delves, like, this is the second time doing delves, they're probably going to change stuff there. Like, Mythic Plus, who knows if they're going to do anything there? Who knows if they're going to change anything with raids? Like, there's going to be a lot of changes already that for a first expansion one, I don't think that they need anything. Going forwards, maybe. Like, maybe we'll miss something, but like, this is the highest likelihood that there are going to be class changes. And getting people used to those without additional stuff on top of it is probably fine.
I do think that, and I mean, they talked about this on the Potty C. I think it was Max was talking about this, maybe even before the Race World First, how they were kind of posing the question is like, was the War Within less successful, mostly due to the fact that there just wasn't a lot that changed from Dragonflight to War Within? And this, I mean, reading this stuff for Midnight, it, at least from like a how the game is designed standpoint, kind of feels about the same, right? Obviously, housing is a bit of a shakeup for those people who it is for, but it's not for me, right? Like housing for me, it's like, okay, is this really the third experience that I'm gonna have with Dragonflight effectively?
I think it depends on how seriously you take the game.
Yeah,
I think a lot of systems are awesome if you don't take things too seriously. Like going back to Fellowship, right? Like this is not our main game. This is a, you know, like a side thing. We're just playing for fun on a beta. So like things that are not necessarily good for competitive integrity, but are fun, we look at them as great. But in WoW, you might hear us complaining about the same things, being like, oh, you know, the knowledge gap for knowing what exactly you have to sheep is so bad in dungeons, blah, 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 blah. I do 17 keys, you know? And I think that's sort of the same thing. And I think Potty C is a really funny example of, you know, I think Dratnos and Max especially are two people that are like very, very super serious about competitive rating, but like not much else in the game. And so like that sort of shapes their viewpoints of like now they're looking for other cool, fun things, even if as long as it doesn't impact competitive rating, like that's cool. And I think, you know, someone like Dorky or whatever that plays longer term M plus like might have a slightly different view. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I think it's been a couple expansions since we've had really wacky stuff in terms of like player power and that. So I do think some people are maybe wondering where that is. But I just think everyone is just such like a super competitive Andy in WoW and takes things really, really seriously. So it's hard for them to implement like wacky player power, like infinite grind AP, because that was just so terribly received in BFA and Shadowlands. But it is funny to hear people, some of which who had complained about it back then, are now sitting here saying, "Oh wow, things are too boring."
I still think, regardless, I'm looking forward to this alpha cycle. I think the expansion cycle is the most fun part of like the expansion because you get guaranteed weekly class tuning.
Yep.
As stupid as that sounds, like every week you're like, I hope they get me this week. I hope they get me this week. And you actually have a decent chance. Like it's, you know, seeing what's in the build, seeing your class got updated, seeing your tier set get updated, seeing your spec just got a rework because you complained and they actually agreed and stuff like that. I think that's really, really fun. But like for a lot of people, except for class stuff, there's not going to be much for a while. You know, we're not like just to get people's expectations in. While we may get normal dungeons, we're not going to see Mythic Plus for a very long time. We're not going to see raids for a very, very long time. You know, the endgame content that you might love is not going to happen for a while. You know, a lot of focus is just going to be on classes, and it's going to be on the zones, the leveling, and the player housing probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't normally play alphas until they actually have Mythic Plus out. Frankly, like I don't, you know, I'll check out the initial pass and see what's going on with the classes that I'm interested in, and then I just kind of sit there and I'm like, you know what, all these leveling zones and playing through these leveling zones is not for me. I'll show back up whenever they release like Mythic Plus or they start raid testing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the dungeons. That's, you know, part of the temper your expectations thing is will show 2 dungeons, but for the most part, it's like mostly aesthetically. You know, when it comes to the bulk of the mechanics and the things that you do in the dungeon, a lot of those are added into Mythic and Heroic. You know, and it's like on a normal level dungeon, you know, it's basically a cinematic experience where you're doing it while you're leveling, right? That's what a normal dungeon is. It's not meant to be like, okay, how does this boss work? It might have one mechanic or whatever, but many of the core mechanics or the interesting things are added to those difficulties, not in when they first come out in the alpha.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still really excited. I'm still that idiot that every time I show up to a carnival or whatever, I see cotton candy. I'm like, oh my god, cotton candy! And then you eat it, and you're like, this sucks. And then the next time, oh my god, cotton candy! That's me when it comes to alpha. Like every time, I'm just really super excited, and then I get it, and I'm like, okay, now I'm sitting in town and I'm looking at my hero talent tree, and I can either level up to gain 2 levels or do a normal dungeon.
I like beta in PTR cycles like that because it gives me content to do, but it's not the first patch, right? But it's very importantly not the first patch of the PTR cycle or the ones that I enjoy. It's the later ones that I'm like, whenever they're shotgunning class changes pretty late, those are the ones that I'm like, holy shit, this is so much fun.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, Turbo Boost. They announced a Turbo Boost date, which was, I think a lot of players' reaction, I was reading it online, was that this was surprisingly a little bit early. They said it's coming out on October 7th, so around 2.5 resets from now or something like that, right? I think it's actually 3 resets from whenever you're watching this video even. But it says partial launch. What exactly is the partial launch, Squishy?
Yeah, so basically off the bat, the only thing that is really coming out is the increased tracks. So going from 6 to 8,
Okay.
and the way to upgrade your crafted items as well. That is it. So in 2 weeks, you're gonna get, what is it, like 6 or 7 more island levels on all your pieces, and that's basically it.
Crest
Um,
upgrade? Crest uncapped?
They didn't say. That's the one thing that nobody knows. Crests are unknown whether or not they're going to be uncapped or not. The assumption is yes, because they were last time, and this would be silly if they weren't. But we don't know because they didn't include it. But way later down the road, at some unknown time, we're going to have increased woo-wee gear from Mythic Plus and Raid. You're going to have Valorstone transfer, because for some reason that needs to be released later. Who knows why.
Wonderful.
The dinars are coming back. And you are able to earn catalyst charges by completing content, which is actually kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie.
I will say something. I thought that Valorstone transfer was just like a baseline thing for the beginning of the patch, wasn't it? I thought that was one of the changes that they made to Valorstone.
No, they disabled it. No, they disabled it at the start of the season.
They added it at some point last patch, and then they disabled it. And it was, well, the reason we knew is because on PTR it was disabled, and we were wondering, we're like, is this on purpose? And I didn't even really think about it, but I mean, I'm a guy, right? I'm a nerd. I play a lot. I spam M+. And so I was literally like siphoning Valor Stones off my guy and just sending them to other guys. And so now I just have like random characters that I never play with 2,000 Valor Stones. I'm like, this isn't doing me very much good right now.
Okay, so the Valor Stones didn't reset at the start of the new season, which made me think that they were also not going to remove the transfer.
I think the point of like why the Valor Stones exist is very valid. I haven't had issues with them all season, but I also just play the game enough. But like, I don't know, man. There has to be some reason that they exist. Otherwise, I feel like they would have removed them. And I don't know what that reason is, but like, as long as they don't impact me, they can stay there. That's fine.
I think all three of us were pretty strongly on team don't announce the turbo boost until right before it's happening. Do we think that this is too early, or do we think this is the right timing whenever they're announcing it relative to the turbo boost coming out? Like, what are you guys' thoughts? Because I think that it creates this situation where, at least last season it did, where players got pretty apathetic about not wanting, or like they were making gearing decisions based on like dinars and stuff like that, and people talked about how turbo boost was going to slow down their desire to actually play the game and stuff like that. What are you guys thinking about the timeline on this one?
I think it's fine. I think that as long as it isn't like super soon, because I think of like the demographic of players who isn't playing all the time, right? Like maybe you check out a patch, do some keys to get 3K score or get AOTC, right? You're not like a noob or a casual, but you just don't really go that far in progression. I think most of those people are probably done with the season by now and have gotten what they wanted. And so, all right, well, at any point now after this, it's fine for them to bring it in, I think that there's no, like, what is the point of waiting for another month, right? Like, maybe there's this demographic of guilds who will get cutting edge then, but, have turbo boost in, and it feels weird. But for the most part, I think it'll be a welcome addition at any point.
I think it's fine. Like, I think most people are going to be done with what they want to do this season. So for the people sticking around, it's fine. It also launches with Legion Remix, or otherwise known as Lemix to a lot of people now.
Lemix.
Lemix, yes, it's going around. So like, you might have a person that's like, oh, want to come back, play Legion Remix for a bit, and then okay, done my dailies on Lemix, and then so now I'm just going back to live, and I'll get a few crests. Like that's fine. Like give people a reason to come back to retail when they're already playing Legion Remix. It's fine.
I feel like Legion Remix, I was way more hyped for Mop Remix than I am for Legion Remix. I don't know what it is. Are people like super stoked for Lemix, Squishy, like from what you've been reading and seeing on like on the Wowhead side of things? Because like for me, it's the content was just not that enjoyable for Mop.
I think there's a pretty big difference in what the developers wanted this time and what the players wanted. There's different reasons to have played Mop Remix. Some people wanted to experience the content again. Some people wanted to just have this crazy power fantasy. Some people wanted to actually do the content again at a reasonable level.
Yeah.
And last time, you weren't really able to do the content at a reasonable level. But for the people that wanted to like just feel super powerful and one shot everything solo, like that's exactly what you got. And so I think this time around, they did two things that were kind of tangentially related. The first is they time gated things, and we know how people feel about time gating things. The second thing is they didn't really want to give people that power fantasy anymore, which is a pretty big stark change from the way that Mop Remix went. And so people who were expecting to go from Mop Remix who liked Mop Remix were expecting Legion Remix to be the same thing, and it just wasn't. And so you just had this weird dichotomy of Blizzard catering to what is essentially a different crowd, I feel like. And with time gating, there's a lot of people who just like, if you want something, you just want to get it done and then you want to get out. But with time gating, that's not what you're allowed to do. You have to go through every phase. You have to wait for the next thing, wait 2 weeks for the next phase. Like, oh, you really want this? Wait an extra couple weeks, wait a month. And it's just like, it's just odd. I'd rather they just release everything, let people have the power fantasy that they always wanted, and then move on, and then let them move on. I think
I kind of akin it to like, remember when they released that Dastardly Duos thing and it was like spread out over 5 weeks or whatever? It doesn't really, like, I think for something that like tons of people are doing in a bunch of different ways and everyone's playing as their main game, I can understand time gating. But it definitely feels like they're milking it a little bit, and I don't really. It doesn't really make sense to me in this context.
I will say the thing that sucks the most is like the most enjoyable parts of Legion at the time were class design and legendaries, and then it's just like Legion Remix. I just like think about what that would be with current modern classes and modern class design. I'm like, oh no, sad. It's like, oh no, I'm sad again.
I always figured the remixes, at least when I like, to me, Mop Remix had nothing to do with the class design or anything. It was mainly just like some like using that as a springboard to just like mess around. I don't really think it meant it, like, it's not Mop Classic, right? It's not Legion Classic, and I think that people who go into it with that, while it's it is cool, like people like Mop class design just as well. That's just not what it is. It's basically just like reusing old content to give people something to do in between patches, and also like earn some cosmetics and stuff, which is like, obviously there's gonna be a small demographic of people who like take it really seriously and try and push solo dungeons or whatever, and it's like, maybe time, whatever. I just don't, to me, just like throw it all out there, let people do it, experience it how they want. I don't.
Also, if you're a new player and you really want to experience the old affixes such as skittish, bolstering, and sanguine, you could do that in Legion Remix all again.
Are you supposed to like solo dungeons in Legion Remix?
No, you don't need to. It's just the easiest, right? Like, you can solo 40s once you're power capped, basically. And so if you're really wanting like that cool mount or something, you just want to farm bronze, you can just, and you don't have any friends on, instead of like searching an LFG, you just walk into Dark Heart Thicket plus 40 and just solo it and get your bronze. Like, that's fine. I think that's fine. Like, when you're power capped, like, let people have that fantasy. There is a part of me that wants to do those raids over again. Somewhat. But like, do I really want to organize, like Mythic Kill Jaden all over again? Not really.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing the raids. It's like, you're experiencing the raids. Like, it's not like you're, it's sort of like, so when I first started playing WoW, one thing I like to do, I had a friend who had played for a long time, and we would just transmog farm together, and he'd like, tell me about some of the bosses. Like, we'd go to Hellfire Citadel or whatever, and he'd explain like, oh, this is what this boss was. Not like in depth, but just like, kind of briefly mention it as we're walking around. And like, that's kind of what these things are, I think. Like, it's not meant to be like, oh, this is super serious and you learn the mechanics or whatever, just like a passenger experience. I mean, I could be wrong. I know there was that little demographic of people. Like, I remember Mop Remix had these like really challenging raids, sort of, except for you just get really geared and then they're not challenging, or you use one of the bugged gems and you just one shot every boss. Like, it's just weird to try. I don't know. It's like a playground kind of. Oh, and frog farming. I love that. Was like one of the last
oh my
one
God.
of the last growl videos of Dragonflight, which was really, really funny. I don't know how I came across it, but I just remember like finding it very early, and I just made a video about frog farming, and it just like popped off and then died within like 8 hours because it just got nerfed.
This time they did make it a good change, in my opinion, because last time you had to either choose between upgrading your gear with bronze or buying like the mounts with bronze.
Yeah.
And it was just like this weird investment. You no longer have to do that. which is good. So bronze is only spent for like buying cosmetics,
Oh, cool.
which is a great change. It was just like this weird investment theory where it's just like, if I upgrade my gear, I farm bronze faster, but I'm currently setting myself back in the short terms, which means I'm going to be playing longer. And it's just like that was weird.
Well,
so they fixed
Yeah,
that.
that's good that they did that.
You're farming bronze faster, but I'm going to be sitting in LFR anyways, just waiting for somebody to kill the boss for me.
Leech.
Okay, so I saw this clip on like Max's clip channel talking about like there was some implication about via a game of telephone from add-on developers that there's a rumor that Blizzard's going to be looking to restrict a bunch of add-ons on Midnight's launch. Squishy, have you heard anything about this?
What clip is this?
Let me see.
Do you have it?
It is Blizzard could accidentally ruin the race world first in Midnight. Yeah, I found it right here. It was on his Clips YouTube channel, and he's literally talking about how apparently add-on devs have been getting word from Blizzard. I mean, again, this is all like third-hand information to Max. This isn't even like first-hand information, but that add-on developers are hearing rumors about people or about Blizzard looking to lock down a bunch of add-ons at the very beginning of Midnight, not even like in the middle of it, like at the very like the launch of the expansion.
So what we do know is that that is Blizzard's goal. I don't think we've heard anything about the launch of Midnight. That seems early.
Yeah.
I do know that there's been some leaked screenshot of some Discord DM being posted around that people are posting as fact as like them locking it down, but that screenshot doesn't exactly look real to me. It looks really weird. So I don't exactly believe that screenshot. Like it could happen, but like I feel like we would need to see kind of the DBM come out, the nameplates, the cooldown manager, the everything that comes up before they would even say, like, it's entirely possible that this is something that Blizzard wants to do, but there's no way, like if I was Blizzard PR, there is no way that I would announce this until the community has accepted and agreed that the Blizzard replacements are acceptable at minimum.
What are encounter warnings? It says UI encounter warnings on the alpha content phase. I
assume that's bigwigs.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't know what exactly that meant.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's definitely some merit in ripping the Band-Aid off in that way. Like, I know we all hope for a very peaceful transition where Blizzard slowly improves stuff and then all of a sudden everything is magical and perfect. But realistically, like, I would like to see this fix for weak auras and crazy UIs and stuff done sooner rather than later. And I wouldn't, like, okay, let's be honest. There's going to be a raid tier that is ruined by weak auras and add-ons and stuff in-game and, like, not having add-ons and, like, the UI.
This one, I hate this one. I hate the weak auras and add-ons for this one.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's already happening, right? It's already happening from boss to boss. There's going to be a transition tier that they rip the Band-Aid off. And so I don't really mind them doing it faster. I am very suspicious, as you guys are, that this is going to happen on the first season of Midnight. But if they do, whatever. I just think that and again, not to go back to Fellowship, but I just look at what I know Blizzard can do a good job with this stuff if they apply themselves, right? Like if they actually look at what add-on developers are doing and what is needed for the game and implement these things, they can do a good job. And in my opinion, like it'll be a much better streamlined experience if it's done well, rather than Blizzard making an encounter and then add-on developers coming up with a solution to fix it and then everybody using it, right? Bro, if you're raiding in Mythic this tier and you're having to deal with Liquid Weak Auras, it is insane. My guild is the biggest group of monkeys that you'll ever run into. And now, without fail, every day we show up to raid and everybody has WoW Up Curseforge Edition installed and their secret passcode installed to get the Liquid Updater installed, and they refresh their add-ons and then update. And it's just like, how has it come to this? Like, it's so annoying. It's so annoying and I hate it.
Tettles.
Yes.
Mr. Bend the earthen elements to summon a guardian that will grant you 20% maximum health for a minute.
Dude, I hate the TTS lady. I'm over this all TTS garbage. Like I know that I am too. I know that I use it a lot. Like if you watch my Dimensius prog at all, I have this lady yapping in my ear for like 8 consecutive seconds about pressing my defensives, just like RPing my abilities. I if there's anything that has to go, it's the text to speech. That stuff is the most obnoxious by far. I also don't like the text in the middle of the screen telling you what to do. I think that is also complete garbage. But the text is more acceptable and more bearable than the TTS lady. The TTS lady must get removed.
You're never getting rid of the TTS. As many people have pointed out, if the encounter is hard enough to warrant it, you're just going to do it out of the game.
Don't care. Delete the TTS lady. She's got to go. Like, if people are going to be cringe as fuck and do this shit with YouTube videos, and you're going to play them at the exact same time that you started an encounter, and you're going to optimize all the fun out of the game, fuck it. Don't care. I think it is really cringe to have this TTS lady in the game. She has got to go.
The way I see it is that I actually think most people wouldn't use an outside of the game solution. Like, look, if Liquid wants to do that, or if like your guild decides, and I might eat my own words here, and everyone's doing it, right? But the thing about Liquid reminders and the text to speech thing is it's so integrated and so easy to do now. Like, you literally just open up a thing and click, and so in my opinion, like if you're a mythic rating and you're in my guild and you're messing these things up and forgetting them, like, I don't know, you're an idiot. Put it on your screen.
You should not
like,
be able to play.
Why wouldn't you? You know,
you like, should not be able to play custom sound files either. Custom sound files also need to go because like that.
Well, I just think that you're not asking for that much now, and the fact that it's like it's like imagine if there's cheats in the game or whatever, right? And they're like accepted and everybody uses them. Like, okay, well then just cheat, I guess. Like, but if you're like having to create a sound file or like whatever or do this crazy shit, I don't really think that'll be normalized for people other than like very specific guilds.
So my thought is, honestly, this could very well be real, but I don't think if it is real, we'll hear about it for until we see like the DBM alerts in phase 3 or 4, whatever that was, until we see the new nameplates, until people accept the cooldown manager, because there's no way, I don't see any way Blizzard would take that PR hit before people accept these things. But they've done it before and it surprised me. So I mean, who knows?
And I just want to reiterate, Max in his video also said that he didn't hear that firsthand from Blizzard people. He heard it like second or third hand from add-on developers. So I just want to make that very clear.
I will have to see.
For cool stuff that we've seen this week, archers for some reason. Mortal enemies to Clothies this patch, and they do just 1 billion damage to Clothies. And you can see one of my favorite Twitch streamers here, Yummy Television. He's playing this mage. His name is Jang B, and he's in a Halls of Atonement 18. And he gets targeted by a Hound Master, and he gets shot, and he gets dropped to 50%, even though he's got his mirror images up. And so the mirror images and him are tanking this. And then the Hound Masters decide to shoot him simultaneously. And Jang B gets popped like a little zit. The little roach that he is gets stomped on and just dies 100-0 by 2 archer shots, because for some reason archers this patch are absolutely insane.
As soon as you saw the opening of the clip, I knew exactly what it was going to be. The worst part is my weaker didn't even tell me it was 2 shots. It was just 1, and then I'm just dead.
Yep. Dude, I'm glad the Mythic Plus, or I guess you can say it either way. The Mythic Plusers with bolters are feeling the same what the Raiders are feeling with bolters this tier, man. You just get shot out of nowhere and just die.
Yep.
We're both in this pain.
It's just not very... the bolters are more egregious than the archers, mostly because normally the archers are not doing this to your Clothies, but there's a couple of instances, like a Demolition Duo boss, where for some reason they also just like shoot you to death. The Priority of the Sacred Flame archers are obviously insane, and the throw dynamite people in Floodgate are nuts too. They've always been kind of crazy.
Wait, so what was the cool thing you saw?
Oh yeah, archers are insane. They buffed them a lot. That was cool.
What? You just showed a clip of me getting 1 shot on my mage.
Yeah.
And I gotta go find a Tettles clip of him dying.
just look at Thor Loser. I think it was on one of the best pulls of Dimensius. He missed getting into the Devour.
Oh, I remember
bad.
that one. That was not good.
And then he had Onk, except the ring had closed enough that he couldn't Onk without dying because it was in the accretion disc.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. Like I was sitting there thinking about my Earth Ellie and like whether or not I wanted to press it there or press it a little bit later, and then I just kind of got paralyzed and didn't really think about moving into the Devour, and just I'm an idiot, I think was the end result of that.
I love those moments in WoW where you just have this like chain of thoughts And you're like trying to justify that as a reason why you did the most obvious dumb thing ever. You're like, well, I was thinking about, like, that happens to me so often. I'm like, well, I was looking at my cooldowns and I was trying to see, like, and then I was looking at the mob HP and I was saying, well, can I pop my cooldowns here? Like, maybe I need to hold them. Oh, wait, I just stood in a thing and died.
Yeah, I definitely just like, it was one of those things I was contemplating my defensive and I just like stun locked myself and like randomly killed myself, which was super stupid.
Okay, I have, oops, not that one.
What is this?
We can do mine now. Hold on. So I'm just gonna do two because there's two. First thing, if you have a link, they're accepting questions for the Q&A. Your question, I mean, there's a lot of questions already. You probably won't get picked, but maybe it will. Who knows? You can ask about resilient keys like Growl or Delves or whatever you want. So you can submit it on the Reddit or you can submit it on the WoW forums.
Rejuvenate the glyph system is the top question that's being asked about? Are you fucking serious? That we gotta be better than asking about rejuvenating the glyph system. This can't be right.
Oh, I mean, people are just saying it from a visual perspective, right? Like, they like the cosmetic part of it.
Well, I think that the glyph system isn't what I want to rejuvenate the visuals. I want them to make hero talents cool.
I think Tettles is farming Ls right now is what's happening.
What? You think the glyph system is sick?
I mean, being able to customize, like, the way your abilities look, yeah.
Yeah. They're asking for more, and I agree with that.
All right, guys, in the comments, Tettles L. I don't even need to tell them that because it's already there. That's just, I love how, like, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, the podcast was just posted. I'll, like, check it to, just because. And then I'll just see Tettles L takes in the comments, and I'll look and I'm like, the video's only been up for 7 minutes.
Those are the real ones. Those are the real ones.
So here's a video that was posted in a Discord that I saw. So apparently on Mythic Dimensius, cool tech. So you know how if you stand on the edge, I said this last week. Yes, you stand on the edge, you get double ticked by the pool.
Yeah.
Because there's a lip there. So if you stand on the edge right before the knockback, the knock doesn't push you anywhere because there's a ledge there.
You got to be kidding me.
People found this out over the weekend, man.
This is so good for my shaman.
Jengis, I'm going to wipe my raid so many times trying to do this.
Thor loser is going to be picking up 2 extra globals, I fear.
Okay,
or
so
die.
I'm looking at his positioning. So he backs up to the ledge.
He's like in the notch, it looks like, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I would assume that you'd be able to walk over that.
There might be like a very advanced setup, but...
Yeah. Very, very interesting, but...
It can't be that advanced. I mean, he did it first try here.
That's what was said on it, but...
A very nice adjustment to the Liquid Weaker is they changed the words close and far to front and back because people didn't know what close and far were in reference to because they're not in Liquid. It caused a great amount of controversy in our guild.
Close and far for the reverse gravity soaks?
Yep.
Well, close is obviously close to the boss, and far is obviously not close to the boss.
Nope, half of our raid thought close. Yep, see, Squishy does. Part of our raid thought close was close to the soap, and far was far from the soap.
Oh, you
close
were doing
and
left
far?
and you were doing left and right as opposed to front and back? What?
Well, the problem is left and right. It changes which one is close and far from the soap, because you know what I mean. There's 4 different spawns.
So close and far are the 2 worst callouts that you could ever use in a raid because nobody ever understands what the reference of close and far is used to. Like, pro tip here, never use close and far because people will never understand what you're talking about from the entrance of the room or relative to the boss, relative to your current positioning, which is different between ranged and melee. Don't ever use close or far. They are horrible callouts.
You guys are talking about picking up the excess mass, aren't you?
Yeah, picking up the excess mass and then yeah.
We use close and far, and it's close to the boss and far from the boss. I don't really know.
That's what we started moving to, but for a while we were confused what it was in reference to because they thought, well, I mean, if everybody's standing in the soak and one says close and one says far, you think, okay, well, one's far from where we are, so that's mine.
Yeah, it's those two words are very, very difficult. You can explain them away like Growl's Guild did, but at a glance, if you ever say close or far, people are gonna have different interpretations of them. Just random raid leader tip.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Any final thoughts, comments, words of encouragement, anything else for the viewers before we get on out of here?
Are you raiding tonight, Growl?
Yeah.
Oh my
I'll
god,
probably boot up the stream here pretty soon.
he's gonna
fuck yeah.
He's gonna outraid me to killing the
I'm already outrating you. It's just a matter if we kill the boss first.
well, outraid me to victory. I mean,
you guys got
yeah,
this.
we've had a couple of rough days.
honestly, we didn't deserve to kill the boss last night. So if you kill it before us, honestly, more power to you. That was deserved.
I mean,
That
you get
makes
one
two
more
of
week
us.
of gear, so I hope it helps.
Neither of us
We're
are gonna have
debating
one more
on-
week of gear. We're gonna extend.
Drogo's debating on doing a mandatory early raid and not extending. So we show up 2 hours early, and you have to show up 2 hours early if you want reclear loot. But then we get to the last boss ideally at the same time we would normally start raiding.
Insane. You're procking
Oh my God.
You're procking a day raid on the 6th week of the patch. You cannot be real.
It's like a late evening. It's like an early evening raid.
All right, quick bets. Any nerfs tomorrow?
On
Nope.
which boss?
Any?
Oh, Squishy has insider information.
When did they
Actually don't.
When did they last nerf bosses?
It was.
Did we
I thought it
use
was-
that?
Yeah, I thought it was too recently. I don't think they'll do another. I think the bosses are fair. They're hard but fair.
I think Salvador gets nerfed tomorrow.
Oh, really? All right, you're just guessing because you know Squishy has info. All right, I think I think Dimensius is getting nerfed too. I think Squishy was talking about the DPS checks. I think they're gonna nerf some of the HPs of that something in Dimensius tomorrow.
Oh,
yeah.
Artosian and Pargoth. Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
I don't know anything, man. I'm just curious.
It's crazy. He stopped shuffling the chips to put on his tinfoil hat. I could hear the tinfoil
Yep,
wrinkling.
Yep, yeah. That tinfoil hat that I definitely have. No, I have nothing around me that can make that noise.
No, I was talking about Growl.
Oh.
There
we go.
The chip shuffler.
All right. Well, go play Fellowship, I guess.
All right, that was episode 64 of The Bench. Goodbye, everybody.
Later.